Hi, my name's Jim Jordan, and the subject of this video is negotiation tips. So we're going to talk about some tips to being able to negotiate. And so let's take a look at some ideas for negotiating. First of all, we want to talk about what you're going to learn in this session. You're going to learn some basic principles of negotiation. You will learn the benefits of negotiation, some do's and don'ts, the goals of negotiation, and some techniques and things to say during negotiations that will help you in that process. So let's dive right in. First of all, we want to talk about the negotiating as being a fundamental thing that we do. So the question is, when are you negotiating? Well, you negotiate at all stages of the sales process, from the very beginning to the very end. You're negotiating constantly. Who are you negotiating with? Well, you're negotiating with the parties that are involved in the decision-making process. So in this particular case, let's say of real estate, the parties that are involved in the decision-making process are the buyer, the seller, the buyer's agent, the seller's agent. And then there could also be family members that are involved. There could be a lender who's involved. There could be an inspector and contractors involved. So there's lots of different people that may be involved in a decision-making process and that you will be negotiating with. So you can see why it can be very important to be good at negotiating. So let's talk and take a look at some basic principles of negotiation. The first principle is you have to ask. You have to ask. The worst that could happen is that someone says no. So be prepared to ask. And second, be prepared to answer questions that you know are coming. So there, in certain business transactions, you know you're going to have the same questions over and over again. So use scripts to handle those commonly asked questions. That'll give you a track to run on and something to keep top of mind aware as you're working through that with your client. And then choose your words carefully. Choose your words carefully. Don't ask, can you? Instead, ask, what does it take? Or how can we get this done? Those are great questions to ask rather than can you? What does it take? How can we get this done? Now, let's look at some of the reality of negotiations. First of all, sales professionals frequently have little or no formal negotiation training. So this is your opportunity to get the training you need. Now, this is a very basic course. There's more advanced courses available to learn how to negotiate. So this is just a basic tips and tricks kind of a course. So you want to get the training you need to be a good negotiator. Second, body language and public speaking courses are helpful. A great way to learn how to speak in public is an organization called Toastmasters. It's a great option for learning how to speak, and it will also give you some great principles for negotiation. And then point number 3, prospects research the internet to discover how to negotiate with salespeople. So you need to be prepared to respond. They're all the time looking for ways to negotiate with you. So you need to be prepared to respond to them in like fashion. So let's talk about some of the benefits of negotiation. First of all, good negotiation can give you more control in the process and give you more influence as you go through the buying or selling process. It gives you a better relationship with the parties involved through collaboration. Collaboration is an important part of what you're doing when you're negotiating with someone. And it gives you increased confidence, pride, and professionalism in what you're doing. And there are fewer lost deals through negotiation. When parties refuse to negotiate, usually the deal falls apart. And so by being willing to negotiate and knowing how to negotiate, it means that you will end up with fewer lost deals, which will also mean more repeat business for you and for your business. So let's take a look at a couple of do's and don'ts, things that you want to do and things that you don't want to do. So let's take a look at the don'ts first. First of all, don't let your ego control your responses. Keep your ego out of the negotiations. Keep your ego out of the sales transaction. And then secondly, don't talk too much. Instead, practice active listening. Now, what is active listening? Active listening means paying attention to what the person is saying, eye contact, asking questions to indicate that you're listening, maybe even taking notes. So don't talk too much. Instead, you want to be a good listener. Don't think that it's all about money, because it's usually not. There are many different parts to a negotiation. So don't make money the key element of that. And don't reveal you or your client's motivation. So if you're trying to negotiate with someone, if they understand what you're negotiating or what your motivation is in the negotiations, then that gives them a lever to help move you. So it's best to not reveal that information to the person you're trying, or persons you're trying to negotiate with. And don't be unprepared to negotiate. Plan as much as possible. Understand where in the sales process, in your sales cycle, where you may need to be ready to negotiate. Now, do understand what is the least acceptable outcome. So if you're negotiating on someone's behalf, what is the least acceptable outcome for them? It might be the least price or the most price that they're willing to pay, or the least price that the seller may accept. But do understand what that outcome is so that you can negotiate with that in mind. And do understand your leverage in negotiation. Once again, if you can find something out about the other side's motivation that can give you leverage in a negotiation situation. So understand how that leverage works and what is leverage. Now, let's take a look at some goals that you can have for negotiation. First of all, help people get what they want. Zig Ziglar says it well, that you can get anything you want in life if you simply help enough other people get what they want. So this is a great goal to have, is to help people get what they want. And you've always heard of win-win situation, and sometimes it's hard to come up with a win-win where both parties feel like they're the winner. That is the ideal in negotiations. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes there's a win-lose proposition. When the person you're negotiating with loses, then they don't feel too good about the winner. And so if you're on the winning side and the other side's on the losing side, they're not going to feel that great about you. It might be better to lose a little bit and let the other side win a little bit. If they feel that they have won, that they're more okay than you, then that can be a positive way to approach it. So win-win, ideal. Lose-win, where you lose a little bit to let the other side win, can also be a positive outcome in negotiations. You also want to have mutual respect. So even though you're coming from two different positions, and in some respects you're adversaries in a negotiation, you need to have mutual respect. So you really should move forward with the idea of building mutual respect. And then what goes along with that is credibility. And credibility comes from the questions that you ask. The questions that you ask reveal that you're listening and that you understand what the situation is. And that gives you a lot more credibility in terms of working with someone in a negotiation. So let's look at a few techniques that you can use. Number one, you want to find out the deeper issues. What is the real issue? Sometimes it's identified that money's the issue, but that's not really the deep issue. There's something that goes beyond money. And so if you can find out what those deeper issues are, that can give you an advantage in negotiations. And you need more than a single issue. Never reduce the negotiation to just one point. You need multiple points of negotiation. So for instance, in a real estate transaction, you might have the negotiation point of the closing date, the closing time, possession, as well as amount of earnest money, purchase price, of course, but that's just one of many points. And so the more points that you can get involved in a negotiation, the better of your chances coming up with a positive response. And another thing that you could say is, so let's pretend that in a negotiation, someone asks you for something, concession, let's say. And you could respond with, let's say I give you this concession or whatever you're asking for. What are you willing to do for me? And that kind of rephrases it, particularly for someone that's always asking. And it helps them to realize, hey, this is a two-way street and we need to be working with one another. So if I give you this, what are you willing to do for me? That's a great technique to use in a negotiation. And deal with the small issues first. If you can come to agreement on the small issues, it can help you move through that process to the big issues much, much easier. Also, if you end in a deadlock situation where you just can't seem to agree, you reached a point where negotiations seem to have hit a dead end, ask this question. If you were me, what would you do? If you were me, what would you do? Great question to ask. It's a great pattern interrupt, and it allows them to tell you what might be holding the two of you apart, and it might be something that you can resolve. Also, it's best to be not okay on purpose. Now, what does okay mean? Okay means that I'm in charge, I'm confident, I feel like I have control of the situation. So being not okay is being a little bit more tentative, not feeling so much in control of the situation, not having the upper hand. One of the things is when you're okay, when you feel like you have the upper hand, then it makes the other side in the negotiation feel like they have to be more okay than you do. So don't make it a competition on who's more okay. Go ahead and be a little less okay with than they are. That gives them the feeling that they have the upper hand, that they're winning, and that can help you put that negotiation together without even giving up anything. Now, for a bonus here, I'm going to talk about some things that you can say during negotiation to get responses that may help you win a negotiation. So someone asks you a question. A great response to that is, good question. Why do you ask? Good question. Why do you ask? That's a great thing to say to someone. Or what are you hoping I would say? What are you hoping that I would say? So maybe you say something and they say no to it, then you could maybe respond back, what are you hoping that I would say? Maybe it's a price negotiation. And what are you hoping I would say about the price? That's another great question to ask. Or help me understand when they say something or they take a position that you don't really understand, then just simply ask, help me. Help me to understand your position. Help me to understand where you're coming from in this negotiation. Or you could say something like this. Let's say I said blank, what can I expect? So this is where you can kind of trial close or ask a trial question during a negotiation. So let's say maybe it's a price negotiation. So you could say, let's say I said the price is X. What can I expect if I say that? And that'll give you an idea of where you're coming from and what your expectation can be relative to this negotiation. And then if you hear something that maybe you don't really like, or it's something that you don't want to agree with in a negotiation, then you could respond, well, I'm not sure that I want to do that. What are my options? What are my options? There's always options. And it's great if you can come up with some other options or have the other side tell you what your options might be. Now, what did you learn in this short tips on negotiation? Well, first of all, you learned some basic principles of negotiation. You learned about the benefits of negotiation. You learned some do's and don'ts. You learned about the goals of negotiation, certainly. And you learned some techniques and things to say during negotiation. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. I thank you for listening. If you did like this video, then please hit the thumbs up and like the video, and subscribe to our channel. You can just click down below the little icon or logo, our company logo down below, to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And you also, on the other side of the screen, I guess over here, you'll be able to see another video that may be of interest for you to watch. So if you get to that point, take a look at that video that's over there. And thanks again for watching.